Hello, hello, and welcome to Talking to Food Safety Professionals. My name is Dr. Jennylynd James, and I'm a food safety professional with over 25 years in the industry. And with me today is Yuksel Eyyuboglu. Hello, Yuksel.
Hello, Jennylynd, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Our topic today is food safety auditing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I know Yuksel has spent so many years auditing in the food industry, and he has lots of stories to share with us today. So, Yuksel, how did you get started as a food safety auditor?
The, After 20 odd years in the food industry, manufacturing, research, and etc., quality and whatnot, I thought that I need something else. And then, luckily, in those days, the auditing was just starting to become a norm.
Right.
These were like one-day audits or a day and a half audits at GMP and HACCP. So I joined the company, and because I figured that I know a lot of food sectors,
Yes.
I had worked in many of them,
Right, right.
and therefore I had a lot of relevant categories.
Yes.
And I started those one-day audits, and so I think 6, 7 years later, we had the GFSI benchmarked standard developed, and then we started getting trained in 2007, and in 2008 we started auditing those.
Yes.
And so auditing took me to all over North America
Right.
because of the demands in food
Yes,
industry.
yes, yes. When we
Uh,
had those standards established,
yes,
every um, major retailer wanted suppliers who were
yeah,
audited and they had their certificate. So tell
yes.
me a little bit about your adventures in auditing. First of all, some good stories. What
Oh,
did you?
right. Well, through auditing, that's one of my sort of personal uh, uh, sort of joys to say, meeting different food safety professionals, not necessarily food safety professionals, but different people,
Yes,
and to see how they all each approach to the subject and
yes,
how they communicate. And I met so many brilliant individuals in this industry as I was. It was some of them didn't even have the right tools or resources at their, under their hands, but they just created incredible um, programs from nothing
right, right.
and implemented and then put their authority on it and then became indispensable in their companies.
Right,
So
right.
I am so happy. I can't remember how many, but uh, certainly there were like 90% of the individuals that I met had been exemplary. They were just brilliant
Yes,
in
yes,
their
yes. They
field.
really took the role seriously and did as much as they could, even with limited resources.
Yeah, yeah. So there was, and of course, other parties that meeting different people and also seeing different. Well, most people tell me, "Oh, you go to every plant, so you learn everything." That was never my sort of joy, let's say, because I, having been trained and worked in food industry for half my life, I wasn't really under interest how they make this, because I knew how it is supposed to be made, but
Yes,
everybody had their own little twists and turns and
yes.
secrets. So that was interesting, but other interesting thing was the traveling aspect. I always liked traveling, even
Okay.
though towards the end it starts killing you. But traveling was also half the challenge because
Yes,
logistics and getting there, planning how to do it
yes, the
was just
planning.
really a
Mhm.
big portion of it.
Yes.
Um, and the mishaps, especially living in, you know, Canada and the winter in North
Yes.
America,
Winter
sort of,
travel could be
yeah,
problematic. I remember going to do an audit in rural Michigan near the lakes in the winter, and there was ice everywhere, and I still had to drive to the site, which was in a very small town, so there was no hotel accommodation. And I had to drive there, like 6 in the morning when it was dark and icy road, and it was a bit frightening because I thought if I slid into the lake, nobody would know that I was there because it was dark. And no, it's quite a lot of challenge really to travel in the winter, especially in rural locations. I did uh, audits at fruit and veg packing plants. So
right.
quite rural, you know.
Yeah, there've been quite a few of those. But one of the sort of funny incidents, obviously, not funny at the time, but in traveling, I remember auditing in the US, one state, and going one plant to the other, 5 day, 1 day audits, and then driving up north to Canada. On the way, I stopped in somewhere in a town and near a town in New York. It was just happened to be a motel, and I checked in and very tired, having driven all 5 days, so many
Yes, yes.
thousands of miles, and then got my key in and walked to the some motels have this long walk that you go to your
Yes, yes.
room, and then with my bags and all that, and of course computer bags always with you because you have to finish the report at night,
That's the thing.
and then try to open the door, the card doesn't work, red light, touch the card, red light. Oh God, as I walked back to the reception area, I said, this card doesn't work, I said, and he just took the card and looked and said, it's not our hotel's card. So I went into my pocket and
So
I
you
just
had many cards in the pocket.
well, in the pocket there were like several others. So
Oh dear.
apologies, and
Yes,
there are
yes,
several other things, but when you think afterwards, they become sort of much more of a joke than anything else.
yes. There was one time I had several audits in 1 week and not enough time to prepare before the audit. So for the next audit, and I remember arriving at the facility and I sat down for the opening meeting and realized I didn't even know what they were making. So there was a lovely aroma of some baked goods. And I said, oh, it smells very good. I was ready to start the opening meeting. It smells really nice in here. They said, yes, our apple pies are famous. And I thought, yes, that's what they're making, apple pies.
Yeah,
And that was, I made sure to talk about it in the opening meeting, but I never did that again. I always try to be, try to read in advance before
yeah,
getting to the site. But that week was terrible because it was so many audits. Imagine sitting down and not
right.
really knowing what the site was making. I'll never
Certainly,
forget it.
certainly, especially those 1 day audits because you're auditing 5 days in a row, and then sometimes you don't even know where you are. But nowadays, it's even though time is still compressed, but at least audits are not really limited to 1 day. I'm talking about the food manufacturing
Yes, you
GFSI
yeah.
benchmarks. One of the rules is that it cannot be less than 2 days.
Mhm.
That even is not sufficient
Yes,
when you consider the so many thousand different elements that you have to go through.
yes, yes.
Well, that's one of the things that when you're new, I know when I was that you get trained and then with a senior colleague and you follow the auditing and them being auditing, and then You say, well, okay, I can't do that. And then when you're auditing by yourself for the
Mhm.
first time, oh no, I should have asked this, I should have asked
Yes.
this. So these panic situations come in,
Uh,
and but it's just sort of you plow through that one, and then later on you get a little bit more and more and more used to it, and
mhm.
then gain confidence, which is halfway home when you gain confidence. Uh, it's more related to knowing the standard, but also it's more related to how to interact with your colleagues and the
Yes.
auditees, and making sure that never giving long pauses, whether you're in the office or on the floor,
Mhm.
always engaging them somehow, even if you're typing or taking notes, and you can always throw some sort of a question to keep them sort of
Engage. Mhm.
interested, because otherwise people will lose interest and they will think that you don't really care what they have to say,
Yes, yes.
which is not a good thing
Yes,
because
so I tell people sometimes auditing is half science and half psychology
yes,
because
it's very true.
you do have to interact with the
Right,
auditee constantly, body language has to be positive, right? And
right.
all the time.
Yeah, and also a little humility goes a long way, and because we are there to work together.
Yes.
So they are to extract things from us, and we are to point things to them uh, as a conformity or non-conformity.
Yes.
Uh, and sometimes, of course, these are although during the audit everybody is sort of okay with what you say and what you point out, but at the end of the audit and during the closing meeting and um, things may change. So people become a little offended. No, no, we don't accept that.
Yes.
No, this
Yes.
is not right. We
It
always have
becomes
this.
a fight in some
So
cases.
yeah, I remember spending almost hour and 15 minutes for a closing meeting.
Yes.
Usually it's no longer than 15 minutes, right?
Yes.
Hour and 15 minutes, in two occasions actually, in two different places, explaining what they were missing.
Yes.
And they were just so blindly rejecting it because they
Hmm.
wanted to get a certain score.
Yes. And they say,
And
well,
lot to say about scoring, but if that is not met, they're so hostile.
yes, I've
This is
experienced many situations like that. In fact, there was a general manager who was not present for the whole audit, but he showed up on Friday at 5 p.m. for the closing meeting. And you know what he started with? He said, "Let the games begin." Ha 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 ha. That's how he started at 5 p.m. on a Friday when everybody was visibly jaded and tired. He started with that and he fought every single non-conformance, somebody who did not participate in the audit. Needless
yeah,
to say, it was a terrible experience.
yeah,
And, after more than an hour, I said, well, you can submit your concerns to the certification body. I had to end it because there was no end in his head unless most of the non-conformances were removed. But it was quite a hostile situation that to this
yeah,
day can't forget it.
yeah.
Oh boy.
Sometimes what especially people in the administration or
Mhm.
management positions, they sort of see the company's expectations or the client's expectations, and then what they actually get when they don't match, they think that they can correct it by fighting.
Yes,
Whereas it can only be corrected by completing the incomplete parts, right? And
exactly.
then that means that this is the nature of the any program, food safety programs included. And you get an assessment. Someone tells you that it's a little bit of falling short, and then you address those. Therefore, you improve the system. And the
Yeah.
next time around, another pairs of eyes come, and then they point out some other things that you missed, or it would be nice to have. So this is the name of the game. You continuously improve.
Continuous improvement, yes.
Sometimes internal audits supposed to do the same thing,
Yes.
right? But anyway, so these things do happen. But thing to remember is that auditor is there as their resource, to
Yes,
gain
sir.
things, to work
And I
together.
found in auditing in the past, those companies that have done very good internal audits tend to do well when the third-party auditor arrives because
Right.
they've prepared, they've spotted any gaps that were there, and
Yes.
they've created, missing documents, retrained staff, etc. Those who don't do well, a very thorough internal audit, these are the ones that fight the most with the auditor. That's what I found
Good.
in the past. But I have a little story for you. One time when I was auditing, um, I asked the QA manager to provide a document, and she disappeared for half an hour. Then an hour passed, so I asked everybody, "Where is she? Where is she?" Well, after an hour and a half, she returned with a piece of paper that was hot to the touch, like freshly printed.
You are
And
2
so
hours ago.
I said, well, this is interesting. I wonder where this came from. An hour and a half to bring a document. So when I do training with potential auditors, new recruits, I ask them, what do you think happened there? So everybody would say, well, it looks like it was freshly created. But the thing is, how do we prove that? We can't definitively say that this document did not exist. I know some certification bodies have said, when they do auditor calibration, that if a document isn't provided in a reasonable time, you could raise a non-conformance,
Yeah.
right? Because there is a clause that states, documents should be readily available. So there's one clause in the BRCGS standard that says that.
Yes.
But
Yes. So that's the catch in there, right? It
mhm,
has to be available. And
yes.
yeah, it's one of the things that I want to add on to earlier on, bad experiences versus good. Uh, the the bad experience in my last 5 years,
Yes.
only two out of hundreds maybe audits that
Oh,
I do.
okay.
So in general, as I said, 90% of the time, I have a pleasant experience, and
Mhm.
a little bit both sides, right? When you go with the positive, um, uh, I remember a food safety professional telling me about a certain colleague, know about me, saying that, when he comes as an auditor, I feel so good. He just doesn't show any emotion, and he's just into the standard, and then feel so positive when this
Uh-huh.
person comes, because
Okay.
they're there just to, you know, follow the standard and then see what's the conformity, and then take down the evidence, and then what's the non-conformity, take down the evidence. As simple as that. So therefore, it shouldn't be really all that hard. But there again, it takes a little bit of an experience, because we need to break away from our insecurities and then get into that plane of confidence and knowledgeable, level.
Yes, yes. Well, there are some auditees who like to take over the audit and tell the auditor what to do. And
Yes,
I
I
had,
remember even being pushed by the arm. That
yeah,
so it's never been a welcome gesture.
quite a few instances. Well, one site in particular in the Greater Toronto area where the QA director challenged me. I started auditing the HACCP food safety plan first. And he said, no, you can't do that. You must start with section 1 in the standard, which is senior management commitment. Start with that section first, then you go to section 2, then you go to section 3. I said, excuse me, I am the auditor and I will start with the HACCP plan. Thank you very much. Yes, but this individual really wanted to take over the audit and rejected every non-conformance that was raised. There was many, maybe two, but there was a lot of kicking of the table and slamming the coffee cup and, real
Yeah,
aggression, which wasn't necessary because they were a reasonably good site. And they told me, we are a very good site. They told me the first day. So if you're a
yeah,
very good site, why? Why is it necessary to do all of this?
yeah. I audited in order to get qualified for BRC in 2009, December. I spent 3 weeks in the United Kingdom, uh,
Okay.
driving on the other side of the
Oh,
road for
yes, yes, I know
going to
that.
sites, and I witnessed and then I was witnessed. Um, and there, for instance, the colleagues usually start, which I also followed here for some time. They would start, for instance, looking at the internal audit results first,
Mhm.
and then other inspections and etc. They don't follow a certain order
Yes,
um, because what they want to look at is that, which is a good idea. Before we go on the floor, we have an idea what their findings were,
yes,
and then whether they corrected or not. So,
right.
and then going into the plants, I remember they immediately walked to the receiving area, which
Yeah.
in mostly meat plants that I was witnessing. So that made a lot of sense as well in that case. So here, when I do unannounced audits, I usually start from shipping
Yes.
uh, area because once those products are shipped, you don't see them anymore.
Uh-huh.
So you do your sampling there. So like the fashion of it is depending on your style. There are no rules of it, and
Exactly.
therefore it's you have the blank canvas and to work. But as long as it's being communicated in the audit plan
Mhm.
to the site ahead of time, that this
Yes.
is how I'm going to do it.
I'm glad you mentioned the audit plan. So it's good to send an audit plan, a plan of work for different periods in a day. But some sites now they will hold the audit plan, and if you don't stick to it, they say, well, you said at 11 you were going to do this, but you're not doing it at 11. So some people are not flexible and they don't want the auditor, because things happen. It's a manufacturing site and it's quite a dynamic um, operation in manufacturing. And if a line is shut down and you want to see it at another time, some people, you said that in the plan,
Right.
you're not sticking to the plan.
I know I did have into some sites like that. It's like a understanding. One can set that up understanding in the opening meeting. So, well, this is my audit plan, but it's tentative. We can change it according to your schedule.
Right,
But
right.
if you want to follow word by word, because they may have uh, made appointments with certain colleagues
Okay,
for
yeah.
those days and hours, and therefore just to understand what they prefer, uh,
Yes, in the
and
opening meeting.
otherwise, uh, there will be some colleagues can be very precise
Oh, yeah.
in their following. Therefore, it's good to understand in the opening meeting.
Yes. that the plan might change based on what is happening. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember this because it was quite a few years ago, but you trained me as an auditor. I shadowed two of your audits. And I
Oh, yeah.
always tell people the story of my first time observing a senior auditor. And I didn't realize that I was not supposed to participate. And so I
Oh,
was
yeah.
looking at your work, and then eventually, the QA manager was telling you a few things. I said, well, I think this, and this is what I think, and this is what and you turned around and you looked at me like, you didn't really tell me shut up, but your eyes said it. And you and the QA manager looked at me, and then you put me to sit in an office by myself. I was in timeout for talking too much.
Oh, that,
And I always tell that story when I'm training new auditors. I tell them, you're not supposed to say anything when you are shadowing or
observer.
witnessing. Do not participate. And then I tell them my story. You may not remember that, but for me it was funny at the time because you turned and you looked at me like,
Yeah, it did happen a few other times to other colleagues. It's just not that you get sort of thrown off,
yes,
your train of thought, and also the site gets, or because we certification bodies tell the sites that no, you're only going to have one auditor, the
one
other one is
auditor.
just going to
That's right.
observe. So when the other person also contributes to the audit, there are two things happening. One, the site gets confused, and then
Mhm.
two, they get aggravated, and
Yeah,
then finally they sort of think that they will be uh, hit twice,
that's right.
whereas it's completely opposite because your auditor now cannot uh, point that out, whatever the observer pointed out, if it was a potential non-conformity, unless it's
Yes,
very, very serious, obviously.
yes.
One needs to address it. But so there are several impacts to that. Uh, and yeah, those were, but later on they introduced these, I think BRC introduced the um, senior auditor, witnessing auditor guidelines,
Yes.
uh, which uh, uh, which applies to witnessing auditor as well, right?
Yes, yes,
That the
definitely.
witnessing auditor is
Do
not
not
part of the
participate.
audit.
And
Yeah,
it's very difficult to sit and not participate, not say
I
it. It's,
know.
it's quite
Yeah,
challenging to just watch. Very
yeah.
challenging.
It's in one place. Now you mentioned that I was witnessing a colleague, which is every 2 years, every
Yes,
auditor is witnessed for each program.
yes,
So I'm witnessing this was in part of Canada. Uh, this quality manager just somehow I'm just quietly sitting and then listening, and I don't even write anything not to distract anybody, right? And then they started saying, "Oh, so why do you do this? Like, what's your function?" So we almost completely stopped the audit and started attacking me. The guy, because somehow they didn't think that it was the right thing.
oh,
So this is a protocol, we all have to go through.
yes,
Next time, this auditor may be observing me, witnessing
yes,
me, because it is so. Well, I don't know. That's an easy job, etc. So I got quite a bit of a beating on that
yes, yes.
witness
I
audit.
had a similar experience 2 years ago witnessing an auditor in Ontario, and the site actually wrote the certification body to complain about me because I was looking at the auditor too hard. And that made the auditor, in their minds, give additional non-conformances because I was watching him. So they complained about the witnessing auditor. It was just unbelievable because
Yeah,
I was
it's
looking at them. I looked at them I looked at the auditor, and so in their heads, that's why they got additional
Oh,
knowledge.
like a secret language, yeah.
Yes,
No, it's just it's a difficult situation, especially when the auditee is sensitive, right?
yes, yes,
But normally they shouldn't really be sensitive to having another person. They have their colleagues around, right? Sometimes you go to an audit, go on the floor, you got like this entourage of quality people, production people
yes,
following you, and then
yes,
you don't know
yes,
what each one does. I prefer when I go to on the floor, my main contact being there, and then someone from production, or in each area, the
yes,
production supervisor, or and someone from maintenance,
yes,
would be nice to have. But otherwise, like these some big companies, like 7, 8 people, they need
yes.
to learn. Or 7, 8 people,
I
because you
know.
what did you ask a question to one person, and
The person is
he or she's,
terrified.
well, yeah, terrified because all these faces are looking at.
Yes. And what is funny, well, not funny for the person being interviewed, but the managers would say, you made him nervous. And I thought, me? No, it's because there's six of you looking at them. That's why they're terrified. So I played a little joke at one site that I visited in Ontario, because in the opening meeting, I suggested several times that when I was interviewing someone on the floor, I would only want one manager to stand next to me and the others would fade away into the distance. So I made that request twice in the opening meeting and they laughed. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, okay, we'll do that. Ha, ha, ha. And sure enough, when they got onto the production floor, they forgot. So everybody I interviewed, six of them were standing there, and I would turn and I say, fade away into the distance. Remember, we discussed that. One person and the rest fade away. They didn't want to. So I went up on a little bridge to watch somebody put material in a mixing tank. They all came up. So
Yeah,
then I went down, they all they all came down. So halfway in their coming down, I changed my mind and decided to go back up the steps, and they tumbled and tripped over each other, fell over, and I was laughing so hard because I told them one
yeah,
person follow me. They all so they all tumbled, they came down. It was
yeah.
hilarious.
Sometimes it pays off when you take a chance. Um, some of the practices, um, I found these venues of like some standards. Well, actually, all of them have conferences. They usually specify who should attend and benefit.
Yes.
Auditees usually, and auditors obviously need to attend to these conferences. That's where you have all these exchanges.
Yes.
And then because there are hundreds of, say, QA managers or
Yes.
auditees and some auditors around, there is this exchange, and then therefore it becomes like a self-calibration kind of an
Right.
exercise
Right.
when
Yes.
you talk to colleagues like that. This is what I experienced in one audit, and is this normal, etc. So you do have this. Over the years, last 20 years, uh, especially those sites who've been in the auditing circle,
Yes.
they have smoothened a lot of the rough edges, and
Right.
then they run their audits much more effectively. So are the auditors. They're more experienced, and they know how to manage situations. So therefore, there have been a lot more harmony now than
Okay.
compared with early years.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we can go on forever talking about auditing because it's you know, quite exciting sometimes. But I do
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for telling us about your auditing experiences and, exchanging ideas on the topic. Food safety auditing, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you so much, Yuksel. Please hit the like button, like our video, and remember to subscribe to the channel Food Safety Smart so you can be notified every time we interview another amazing food scientist. Hit the subscribe button. Thank you.